Hello, everybody. Welcome to our quarterly today. Good afternoon, good morning, depending where you are. My name is Carrie Ishmael, and I will be your presenter today. I thank you for joining us. We have a full action-packed session today. It's kind of amazing when you get started putting these things together, how much information you'll actually find that's actually happened in 3 short months. So I have a lot of good things I think to share, and I think I have a few things that are going to make a few people very happy. Let's just start by first talking a little bit about ICC. For those who may be first-time attendees, ICC is a company that's been established since 1987. We have 4 locations in Canada, in Vancouver, in Edmonton, in Mississauga, Ontario, and in Dorval, Quebec. We also have 2 locations in the United States. Niagara Falls, New York, where I am based from, and Houston, Texas. And our primary mission basically is to help customers with their compliance issues as they relate to shipping hazardous materials or shipping dangerous goods. Add to that, we also specialize in workplace compliance, specifically for the hazard communication aspect, which is things like drum labels and WMIS, OSHA, labeling, safety data sheets, and that area as well. So one of the benefits of being an ICC customer is our regulatory help desk. Our regulatory specialists are available for you Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., where we're available to answer your questions. So sometimes they're going to be interesting questions that are even mystifying to us, where we have to do a little digging, and oftentimes we will learn at the same time that you're going to be learning some information as well. And other times we're going to help you solve, why was your package frustrated? FedEx returned it to me. I don't understand why. Maybe newer folks would like us to help them review their shipper's declaration forms. So any of those type of things, we are happy to help. And hopefully, we had a suggestion from a member that attended one of our quarterlies that maybe some real life situations might be fun to present. So I'm including one of those today. So it'll be one of the last things we talk about. And it was a real help desk question that we had in the last quarter. All right, so when we're not doing these presentations and whatnot, we have a full production facility in our Mississauga, Ontario location, where we print all of our own placards, labels, drum labels, and signage, and anything to that effect is going to be printed there. We also have a full range of UN performance packaging, which we've been developing since 1991. So any of those type of products, we would love to be your compliance partner. We will help, you just provide us with kind of what you want to ship, and we will guide you into those solutions. All right, so this is me. So those who are not familiar with me, again, my name is Carrie Ishmael. I am a senior regulatory expert and SDS author with ICC. I've been with ICC. I'm going to be 37 years. I'm 37 years now, almost 38 years this summer. And I have spent the last 15 years or so in our regulatory department teaching, and I teach 49 CFR, the US regulations, TDG, ground regulations in Canada, air and ocean regulations. And when I'm not doing that, I am busy authoring safety data sheets for our customers. And I specialize specifically in Canada WMIS, OSHA for the US, and CLP for the European regulations. So if you need any training or any SDS work and so on, please come our way. I'm happy to discuss your project with you. All right, so everybody is on mute. So we have a large group, and it's going to be just better to keep kind of noise reduction down. So we will have a question and answer session at the end of the program, and I will do my best to get to all of the questions that you might have. So on your on the top of your screen, you should have a Q&A button. You can type your Q&A in there. Pam is co-hosting with me today, and she will be able to answer any kind of immediate questions that may come up, maybe relating to the just the presentation itself and so on. And then, as I said, I will answer questions at the very end of the program. So just type them in as you think of them, and hopefully we'll see what kind of timing we have to get to those. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? So I have updates for you on the U.S. DOT and PHMSA regulations. So that's going to be our U.S. Regulations. Canada actually has some updates relating to the transportation of dangerous goods regulations. Then we're going to move into international regulations. So our international is going to talk a little bit about UN, what's going on there. We're going to talk about air regulations. And I don't think I have anything on IMDG except for one update that is proposed at the UN right now. And then we're going to move into our more hazard communication end of things. So we have just some information from OSHA, from Health Canada, and a little bit of EU information as well. Then the final part of this presentation today is what I called others, and it's a big smorgasbord of various topics that kind of just didn't fit in the other places. So I grouped them all together in one, and that is where I have that help desk question as well that I hope to present more of those going forward and kind of getting some of those real life situations played out here on screen. So, and with that said, if you have any real life situation that you would like me to analyze for you and then present at one of these quarterly meetings, please email me or pop it into the question Q&A as well. And I can look into it and then perhaps present it or do a blog on it in future for you as well. All right, so let's move ahead with our US updates. So first one, this one actually is just hot off the press. It was published a couple of days ago. I believe it was June 2nd that it was published in the Federal Register. So it is HM 257A. And it is basically kind of aligning some of what President Trump is trying to do to streamline processes and make things easier for industry. So removing some of the extra burdens that are in place. And so this one here is, I guess, probably right in time maybe for 4th of July processes, because it's all relating to explosives and low hazard devices. So this is going to be basically where they are changing the way some of the approval process is for explosives. They're going to go to more of an online approval process, removing some of the classification requirements. There are 17 different types of devices and fireworks and so on that are mentioned in here that they're trying to simplify. And small arms is also being mentioned in here as well, that they are able to be self-certified as a Division 1.4S. So the links will be shared with you in an email after the session, where we do kind of a summary of the entire presentation for you. So if you're interested in this one, you'll be able to get a copy of this link, and as well as the other links that are presented along. All right, another one that is just up and coming is the need to register with the DOT. So companies who qualify to register, so not all companies have to register with the DOT. It really depends if you meet their specific criteria. So the one that catches a lot of people is placarding. So if you are somebody that does placard shipments, that's going to qualify you for registration. The other ones are a little bit more specific, like toxic inhalation hazards and high-level explosives and bulk quantities of certain chemicals and that type of thing. So again, going with the whole streamlining the processes that are going through and so on, they have a new process that is starting, and it will open up July 1st of this year. And basically it is, again, an online process that's going to help make sure that there are accurate data is going in, secure transactions for the payment processing and so on. And they believe that this is going to result in some safer processes in transportation. They mentioned that there is going to be a brochure that is going to tell you about the process and so on. The link that I have in here is their current brochure for registration. When I went up to check, it hadn't been published yet, but if you go back to this link, you should be able to find the new brochure that would provide the guidance for you for the registration process. All right, the next one, this is another Federal Register. So Federal Register is where in the U.S. Rules are published either as notices of proposed rulemaking or as final rules. And final rules, of course, are laws. Notices of proposed rulemakings are going to be where public or stakeholders like you have a chance to comment on the documents. So this one in particular was published in May, and it is just going to provide you with a summary of the various special permits that have been issued. So a special permit is a document. In Canada, it would be a equivalent level of safety. So often these permits are needed for when you have kind of an odd situation. Perhaps you have a big piece of equipment that has a small amount of flammable liquid inside of it, or maybe it's got like an explosive cartridge in it, and you need to be able to move it maybe without putting it in a UN package, or something that's going to change something about the regulations to allow you to move the product safely. So you would write to the DOT, you would explain your situation, you would explain why it meets all of the same safety level of safety that it would if it was in the proper packaging and so on. And they will review it, and then they will either issue you a special permit or they would tell you, sorry, we don't believe that this is a good choice. So this Federal Register was one that outlined some of the special permits that were issued, some that had been modified, and some that had been denied. So kind of an interesting one, because if you are in that situation where you do need to, you're thinking about, this odd product that you have that you need to move, you can go through some of these special permits and see if any of these situations might apply to you, and perhaps that would help you and provide some guidance to you in trying to submit something for yourself. All right, this next one here is a meeting notice specifically. So the stakeholders are welcome to join the meeting. And unfortunately, though, it did happen. It was announced in the Federal Register. It took place in May. And basically, this is for the session on the UN subcommittee. So the UN subcommittee of experts on TDG is the group that meets in Switzerland a couple times a year, and they basically discuss informal proposals, working papers that are proposals, and so on. And those are what ends up filtering down into our 49 CFR, our air regulations, our TDG, and so on. So if you have any feedback on this, then you are able to submit that or talk about it in the meeting. If you're interested in the topics that they're going to be presenting or talking about coming at the end of the month, there is, again, a link here. When you go on to the link, there are a few sections where it has the documents in Word documents and so on. And then you're able to just review and see what's going on. You can also comment on some of these things sometimes through your associations. So if you are a member of an association, they will often submit comments on some of these documents as well. All right, so there was another document. Now, this one here is old, so you'll see it's July 2025. So why am I mentioning something that is from last July? Again, this went towards the reduced burden philosophy and so on. And it was a special permit that authorized the use of a reduced size limited quantity marking on packaging. And I guess basically what had to happen here is during this initial publication, companies had to advise or somehow submit information on the number of packages that were being sent and usage reports and shipment counts and UN numbers that were, kind of being I guess, camouflaged because you don't have the hazard class and ISHIP information on there. And that is no longer required. So that became, why I'm mentioning it now, is because that became effective in April 29th of this year. So that is now in place. So another reduced cost burden that hopefully will help stakeholders. All right, so DOT has put out, as you'll see in my Canadian update as well. So it seems like it's a faraway place now in 2028, but there's a lot of work that goes into this emergency response guidebook. There's millions of copies of books that are given free of charge by the governments to the emergency responders in the U.S. and Canada. And so basically, the state or government wants to have your input on any changes that should be made or you'd like to see made into the emergency response guidebook. So this link here provides a comment specifically to the US DOT, where you still have a long time to comment, but sooner than later is always better. So up until January 1st of 2027, feel free to submit your comments and get your say in there. I'll probably include this in future presentations as well, as a reminder until December comes around. All right, so this one here is DOT puts out a lot of really good outreach material. So there's they're always coming up with new things, or they are revising older documents in a way to help the industry comply with the regulations. So and a lot of them are really good. So this was a new one based on the competent authority approvals. So if you're new to competent authority approvals, it can be a confusing process. So sometimes you are not able to ship something unless you get permission in advance from the local government. So in the case of this one, it's the DOT or PHMSA. So they put out an actual little document that explains the process for competent authorities, and so that way you can have a look, and it would provide you some guidance onto where do you have to submit your questions, where do you have to submit your document for approval, how that would work, and so on that way as well. So again, a great guide that I wanted just to bring to your attention, and again, you'll get the link in the follow-up email that we send out. All right, so this one isn't DOT PHMSA, which is the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, but rather this is the Federal Motor Carrier. So this is going to affect anybody that is driving. So it could be not hazardous materials per se, it can be, of course, but it could be somebody who is just driving a truck for other means as well. So this one, there was a new registration system that came out, and if you haven't already, you were supposed to avoid disruptions by getting your registration filed by May 14th. So you can log into your portal. Apparently that's part of the difficult process, is to log in and make sure you can get into the system. And then you're going to make sure that you're reviewing all of your company information. So as a reminder, if you have not done so already and this requirement applies to you, something you better get on right away. All right, so that is it for our US updates. There was another one that came out that was just this week, again, for pipelines specifically, and I didn't incorporate that in there, but there is a Federal Register notice for that, and we will probably put a blog together on that topic. All right, so now we're moving on to Transport Canada, governing authority of the transportation of dangerous goods regulations. And so first thing, we've had a couple customers come to us recently about the proof of classification requirement. So this is a unique Canadian requirement found in Part 2 of the TDG regulations. And basically what it says is you need to justify how you have come up with your shipping description, how you got that I-ship, your identification number, your shipping name, your hazard class, and your packing group. And of late, there have been inspectors that are going around to various entities, and they are looking for this. So I wanted to bring it to your attention because we've had a few customers, as I said, of late call us about it. And we know that the inspectors are out there watching for it. So if you don't have what you would consider a proof of classification for your products, something to think about. If you need assistance in coming up with something, please let us know, and we would be happy to help you with that process. All right, so TDG Online. So this is the portal, Transport Canada's new web portal, and it is basically continuing to evolve. So there are adding things on here on a regular basis, so that this is where you're going to have both that CanUtech registration if you are registered with them, and any changes or registration process that you'd have to make for your client registration if you are you fit that bill. So just something to check in on a regular basis to make sure, just to see if there's anything new or different, and watch for emails about that as well. Okay, so I have some kind of interesting stuff here, I think, for my Canadian group with what they are up to. So they did put out a basically something on their like fiscal plan, I guess it would be. And the fiscal plan, of course, is involving a lot of different things, but this is the transportation of dangerous goods specifically. So some of the things that they are looking to do is provide technical advice on handling dangerous goods and response to emergencies. So they are looking to work with more on CanUtech. That is the service that's available 24/7. If you are using that as your 24-hour service, you do need to make sure you register with them and provide them, of course, with all of your safety data sheets and information about what it is. They are looking to promote safety awareness programs through that CanUtech. Here is also where they're getting ready to review the emergency response guidebook and plan to see what they need to do to make updates to it later. They're looking for how they can access ERAPs, or emergency response assistance plans. They want to see about remedial sites for dangerous goods emergencies. So if there's spills and so on, how they're going to take care of that. And just in general, what are their abilities in responding to emergencies, whether they're chemical, biological, nuclear, explosive events, and so on. So I actually attended a conference where they had the national, it was Narcan, the folks that do I'm getting mixed up. The explosives, they deal with explosives, and they run all kinds of drills on a regular basis for this emergency preparedness, which I thought was quite interesting and reassuring, actually, as well. A couple of the other things that Transport Canada is looking to do in this next fiscal year is help reduce regulatory burden. So probably similar maybe to what the US is doing, is looking at the processes, seeing what they can do to streamline things and make things a little bit easier for industry to comply with the regulations. They're going to do risk assessments and chemical and technical reviews as well. And they are going to look at also on technical research. So energy batteries, they did a study on lithium batteries a while back. So continuing looking at batteries and energy trade corridors, and, just trying to see what they can do to really enhance the TDG. So I believe it's this next slide that is going to be very exciting for my Canadian group. And I said I had a bit of good news. I think this is good news for everybody. The word has it that Transport Canada is finally going to publish the International Harmonization Amendment, and their timing at a conference they mentioned last month is June. So we are in June. So how exciting is that? So we are finally going to see a couple of things happen here. So the one that everybody's been waiting for is that lithium battery mark. So removing of that phone number and only using that UN number, the square mark instead, that will be included in this amendment. The other one that is going to be included in here is the CGSB standard, the TP 14850. So you might, if you're doing packaging, you know that the document that is currently currently talked or mentioned, I should say, in the regulations is the older 2010 edition. And and then they actually had a committee where they got together, they redid all of the document and they published it, but the TDG, the actual regulations, never revised the reference. So that doesn't become law. So now finally, I guess the new CGSB standard is going to be incorporated in here. So that will also that will be published. So those are really the two big ones. The other one is it's going to be actually updating it to the UN recommendations, specifically the 22nd edition. So any of those UN numbers that were not in the regulations before will come over to them. And that's a big deal. We had a customer a month ago or so that had something shipped over from Germany. It landed in the port of Halifax and stopped by Transport Canada because they were using a new UN number that was not published in the TDG regulations yet. So if when things are not harmonized, it poses problems to shippers that are doing international shipping and that type of thing as well. All right, so like I said, good news. So stay tuned. Make sure you're signed up on our newsletter. We will make sure to announce this as soon as it comes out. We will be the first ones. We will let you know right away. All right, there's another one coming. So here we haven't seen any amendments to TDG in some time, and another Canada Gazette expected in June or July. And this one here is going to align industry practices and the TDGR with international codes and that type of thing from 49 CFR and so on as well. So again, stay tuned. They say June, so June, July is what I'm anticipating, and we will let industry know as soon as that takes place. There's one more that was discussed at the conference where they mentioned that they are already starting to think about the next editions of the UN recommendations, because of course they're a little bit behind what they should be. So we won't see any changes to the regulations just yet, but they are starting a pre-consultation plan for the fall of 2026. So there'll be perhaps meetings that stakeholders can attend. And as we get more information on that, we will I will share it with you if I have it before the next quarterly or in December when we do that one. All right, so another one that happened, this is Natural Resources Canada. So in Canada, the Natural Resources Canada is the one that oversees all of the explosives. So it's not part of Transport Canada. It's a separate entity that oversees that. And so they are looking to review a part of their explosives regulations in 2013. So I guess part one was done last year. So this is part two. And the intent here is to modernize it and enhance security and so on. There are comments. If you go to this link, there are some public comments on there. And most of the I didn't read them all, I will confess that, but what I did read is there's a lot of pushback from industry on some of the things that they want to do. So industry kind of basically got the gist that this was going to be a big waste of stakeholders' time and money. So we'll see where this ends up shaking out. All right, here's another one that took place. So this one, unfortunately, this is ended. And once it appears that the CSA publishes something for comment, once the comment period ends, the comments go away. So I wasn't able, I'm going to have to make a note and mark kind of on, May 25th of go in and look at it before they actually close it down, so I can get kind of a feel for what the industry is saying about this one. But nevertheless, this is there was comments on a CSA standard B625, and this is specifically for portable tanks for the transportation of dangerous goods and harmonizing that with the 24th edition. recommendations in the TDG. So again, we won't see if there's a change to the standard. We have to wait for the actual TDG regulations to note that reference in the TDG for it to become law. Okay, so that's it for Canada. So a lot of good things happening, finally moving forward. Now we are going to look at a few international updates. So what's going on around? So we have a UN subcommittee meeting. I mentioned in my US update that there was a Federal Register posting about a meeting where stakeholders could comment on some of the working papers and so on. This one looks like it's going to be a pretty active session, and the meeting is going to take place the end of June and July, and it's done in Switzerland. There are approximately 46 working papers that are on the agenda to be discussed. 13 of those are relating to batteries, so lithium batteries, metal batteries, and so on. And 12 to 15 of those working papers were submitted by either the US or US associations. So they are very active. So when these sessions take place, we'll get some feedback on how those working papers did, and I'll provide you an update in September at that the third quarterly meeting. All right, so one of the, I do actually have two highlights on the working papers that are presented. So two things that I just wanted to tell you about in particular. Class 9 divisions. So I think I brought this up maybe on the last quarterly. So this is kind of what it's one of the proposals that is there right now. And what they want to do is divide the Class 9 category into 4 different divisions. So similar to, say, gases, where it's 2.1, 2.2, but in this case we have a 9.1, which they are recommending as environmentally hazardous substances. A 9.2, which is energy storage devices, so that would be our batteries and so on that way. 9.3 is low hazard energetics, so that would be things like seatbelt pretensioners, or airbags, things like that have that little bit of explosive in them. And then 9.4 would be the catch-all for all the other oddball things, maybe like dry ice, that is still a hazard but doesn't fit into these other categories. They're also proposing, along with this division change, different labels for that as well. So right now we're familiar with just the plain Class 9 that we have, and which we have over here. Let me just the plain Class 9, which we have over here, and we're familiar with the lithium battery Class 9, but here we have a new Class 9 with that dead fish, dead tree in the center of it to represent the environmental hazards, and then our little Class 9 with a little explosion in it for those seatbelt pretensioners and airbags and things like that. So we'll see what happens at the meeting in a couple of weeks. The other one that I wanted to highlight as well, because we have a lot of companies, I think probably on the call, that are actually that do ship lithium batteries. And Special Provision 188 is from the IMDG regulations for lower powered batteries. And this, I know this is a mess, but basically this is what they're proposing. So anything new is going to be underlined, and anything that's going to be deleted is the way it's crossed out. So basically what this is doing is they're trying to clarify the wording in the regulations and try to simplify it from what I can see. So basically what they're saying is that the cells or batteries are protected against damage and short circuit that might be caused by the placement or movement of the cells or batteries within the packaging. So it's just basically a refinement of the words to provide a little bit better guidance for those that are doing packaging, because with Special Provision 188, there's no UN packaging required, and you need just that strong outer packaging that passes a drop and stack test. But even if you have a drop and stack test, if you don't package it properly, you could still run into issues. So some clarifying words. So we'll see if that gets changed as well. Everybody should have seen, we did publish a blog about this ICAO addendum. I mentioned it was coming in the previous quarterly. So it happened, and that was in March. So this is that power bank. And if you remember, there's been several incidents on board aircraft with power banks. So, and just, the airlines got really nervous about this and basically said, you know what, we don't want these kind of on our planes, but we understand that they're probably going to be. So we need, so we want to know about, we want to change how they're being handled. So basically, this basically said you have to take it on as your carry-on baggage. So that really hasn't changed because you're not allowed to put batteries in your check luggage anyway. You must not recharge them while on board aircraft. So that is a new requirement. You are not going to use them to recharge a portable electronic device while on board the aircraft. That is a new recommendation. And no more than 2 power banks may be carried per person. That is a new requirement as well. So be cautious anytime you're traveling with your lithium batteries. Always make sure you have them on your person. And I know one of the things that I heard that they were going to do was maybe even they wanted it where you had it within reach. And that could be just an airline guideline versus putting them up in that overhead bin and whatnot. So that's something just to consider when you're traveling. All right, so this is a European requirement here, the RID, and they met in March. There's some minor editorial amendments and so on that will be published in the 2027 edition regulation. So this is a big year for new regulations where we will see it's an ICAO year at the end of, like in the fall for the first of the year. IMDG will be published and the ADR. So a lot of the changes are coming in. The significant amendments and so on are not going to be published until 2029. And again, I've given you the link there where we'll show you any significant changes if this is of interest to you. All right, we're moving along to OSHA and WMIS. So the as was mentioned in the previous quarterly, the GHS or the UN Subcommittee on the GHS was postponed in December, but they did have an informal session in January. The next meeting is actually being held shortly, so it's going to be in July, and that's the 49th, considered the 49th session. And there are a bunch of different topics. I provided you with 2 links here that we can look at. One of them is from what had been originally proposed in the December 2025 meeting. And the other link is for what is now proposed for the July meeting. So the ones that are going to be of, when I looked it over, kind of interesting, they're looking at the criteria for germ cell mutagens. They're looking for persistence and mobility. So that's about the biodegradability of products in the environment. Looking at non-animal test methods. So that would be great. And the other one that they said they were, like I said, there was a bunch, but the other one that caught my eye was practical classification issues. So I'm curious to see what the discussion is going to look like on that, because I author safety data sheets, and sometimes those classifications, there are times where those classifications are not cut and dry. And so we need to, so I'm curious to see how that's going to come down. So stay tuned. We'll once we know the changes that or have been adopted and so on, again, we'll publish a blog and then I'll discuss it in September. To get ready for the meetings, OSHA had 2 sessions where they again invited stakeholders to come and discuss the UN and the proposed changes that are there. So this is your chance. If you want to comment and you don't like something about the classification system, you can get involved and attend these meetings. So there is one that already took place, and there will be another one in December as well, where you can go in and have a look. The meeting dates and times and so on are in the link that I have provided. Health Canada. So Health Canada, as we've seen over the last year or so, have been doing hazard assessments for various chemicals. And these are non-mandatory documents, but they're very helpful. So they have come out with a bunch of new ones, including benzyl alcohol, citric acid, hydrochloric acid, hydrogen peroxide, and sodium hypochlorite. So you can go on to the WMIS.org site, and you can scroll down to, there's a section for helpful information, and you can find the hazardous assessments there. So basically, and they're really well done because they do provide justification for their conclusions. So it will give you a almost like a proof of classification, if you will, and to guide you on what's what. They also ask for feedback. So if there is something that you're concerned with, I have a concern about ethylene glycol is one of them, where the classification isn't the way I would have done it. So I sent them an email about that, and we'll see. Maybe it'll change. Maybe it's just difference of opinion. So we'll see how that goes. The HMIRA, or I've heard it called HIMRA. I'm not sure how actually, but it's officially the Hazardous Materials Information Review Act. And basically, this is where Canadians, if they want to protect their formulation, this is their only way to do it. So unlike the US that allows just trade secret, and you don't have to really tell anybody unless there's an incident or medical professional that's asking or whatnot, in Canada, you actually have to file with HIMRA and provide them with information about what you want to propose as a trade secret. And there is some fees associated with that, which just were adjusted in April. So if you are a regular sized business, it's over $2,000 to submit this information, and $1,100 for a small business. So what they would do is you'd submit your document, they would give you a date of filing, then you'll get, if it's approved, they'll give you a number, and that's the number that you show on your safety data sheet with the approval date, and that allows you to say that a chemical is proprietary, disguise it as with a synonym or something to that effect. In addition, then they too are trying to streamline how they are processing the various claims to hopefully get things through faster. And so they have a new online application form. They've updated their user guide on how the process is going to work. And they've given you kind of step-by-step instructions on how to go about processing your claim. So this should be very helpful for anybody who is going to use, who's going to do this as well. All right, one of the other things that changed, and this is important to note because this will affect your safety data sheets. So if any one of these chemicals is one of your products that you ship, IARC, who is one of the international agencies for cancer research, they published, was a little bit earlier this spring, 3 chemicals are now basically on their list. So when you have something that is an IARC 2A, it is considered very probable that it is going to cause cancer in humans. And in a group 2B, it's possible. So it's shown cancer effects in animals, and they, you're going to want to classify it as a suspected of causing cancer on a safety data sheet. So if any of these are your products, please go through and your SDS will need to be updated. If you were a client of ICC's, I've notified you if one of these was on a document that we did for you. You've been notified already, but if you're doing your own, this is a big change. Please make sure, or if you need help, reach out. We're happy to help. Okay, so that is it for our kind of regulatory updates. So this is that bunch that I just kind of said was, well, I have a few others to talk about, and I'm just going to group them all together because that's just going to make it a little bit easier to talk about. So first one, in the last quarterly, somebody had mentioned that the IAEA, which is the main document for radioactives, had been published. So that fell off my radar, so I apologize for that. So I promised I would include it in this quarterly, so here we have it. So basically it is the SSR-6 and it's a revision 2. And it was published in December of 2025. I did provide you with a link to the actual document if you'd like to go in and download it. Some of the biggest changes that I saw was some of the A1 values, which are the special form radioactives, have changed, and A2 values have changed. And that's a big deal because it can change the type of packaging that those radioactives have to be placed into, type A packaging limits or going into a stronger packaging for that. There seem to be a lot of like small editorial changes and so on as well. So again, the PDF is available to you to have a look at and review if this is something that is important to you. I also found a document. So this isn't a regulatory body that one would think of, like it's, but it's somebody that it's an international safe containerized cargo organization. And it published a guide that I thought was very helpful. And I thought it was well done as well. So it came out in April of this year, focuses specifically on lithium-ion batteries and lithium-ion batteries contained in equipment, packed in equipment, and standalone. So and it's basically about if you're going to be doing containers that are going overseas, or I guess even inbound containers that might be coming in, it provides some guidance on that. So again, a good document just as a reference that you can look at, and any little thing that will help you prepare a shipment is in my mind worth looking at. Okay, this was another battery item. Of course, batteries are always a hot topic. So the EPA has actually come up with this new toolkit, which I thought was pretty clever. And it is electronic, so you can go into the link, and there's basically little boxes like I have down on the bottom of my screen here. And basically you can put in your specific information. So do you have a large format? Do you have a small format battery? What type of information are you looking for? What is your focus area? Is it fire management? Is it hazardous waste, recycling, whatnot? And then community characteristics, so it's specific to everybody, or there's also some tribal as well. And so it's going to have various things like how-to guides and standards and reports. And when I was playing around in it, it was quite interesting. So again, even though it's US based, I bet you that my Canadian group would find some pieces of information that they could just apply in Canada to their shipment and so on as well. Okay, so here we have, okay, so this is my last slide that I have, and this is my interesting question that I had on Help Desk, and I kind of decided to do this at the last minute. I knew I had a couple of really good, interesting questions this month, but I'm going to document them better so I can include a few of them next time around. So this one here was specific to it was a transport company that called us, and they had a customer that was not willing. They were sending empty IBCs, and they were refusing to placard the shipment and provide documentation. And why I found this interesting, because I'm sure, as you know already, when you go into the regulations, oftentimes it's not what the regulations say. Sometimes it's what the regulations don't say. And especially with 49 CFR as well, what happens is oftentimes things are spread out amongst the various sections. So you always kind of have to kind of say to yourself, okay, am I reading this right? Am I missing any piece? So I decided to call the DOT, especially because the customer that wasn't complying was a little cranky. So I wanted to make sure that I was providing true and accurate data So I was able to, so they reassured me that yes, because it was an IBC, which is considered a bulk container, or in Canada, a large means of containment, that we needed to have, they needed placarding, and it should have gone out basically as a fully regulated shipment. The customer thought that it was I guess in the EPA regulations for waste, they provide a specific guideline, something like 1 inch of material in the IBC, and then it can, it's considered empty at that rate. DOT doesn't do that. DOT basically says if it's a bulk package, it's a bulk package. And until it's truly cleaned and purged, it is a fully regulated shipment. So there was a letter of I asked the gentleman at the US DOT help desk, do you happen to have a letter of interpretation? Because this can't be the first time this question has come up. And sure enough, there was a letter of interpretation that provided me the guidance to say, absolutely, this shipment should be placarded, and I was able to provide that information to the client. So as I said, I would love to hear any interesting questions that you have, and I would be, I would like I did on this one, I'm not going to share company names or anything like that, but I would love to share some real life interesting situations that you run into. So if you do have anything, please send me an email, find me on LinkedIn, and I would, I'd love to hear from it and then create something from that. All right, so that is basically the end of our presentation for today. I want to just remind you about our resources that we have available for you. We would love to have you sign up for our newsletter, which you can do right on our homepage. If you go onto our homepage, scroll to the bottom, you'll be able to get our newsletter, which we send out about once a month or so. We have our, I'm on LinkedIn, our company is on LinkedIn. We'd love to be friends with you on LinkedIn as well. We share a lot of information up there. And our help center also has a lot of information on, we have frequently asked questions up there. So if you have any questions, sometimes you might be able to find the answers there, especially if it's in off hours or anything to that effect. So, so hopefully some helpful resources for you. This is our LinkedIn information here. So again, we'd love to have you like us on LinkedIn and follow us, and our presentations and so on. This is recorded, and we will have the recording. It'll be up on our YouTube channel. All right. Is there, I see we do have a couple of questions. So let me go through here. So, okay, so the hazmat registration process. So the based on the US, the registration process is not new. It is it's been around for as long as I can remember. What is new about it is just the process that they are using to get companies to register with the DOT. So if you do need more information, if your company should register, if they're not already, if you want to send, provide me, put in the chat, you can give me your email address or email the company, or give us a call on our help desk. I'll be able to clarify what those circumstances are and be able to guide you accordingly. All right, the next question is, a copy of the SDS considered a proof of classification? That is a great question. And the answer is no. They don't consider the SDS enough information for the classification. So what you really need is another document or a statement that is going to provide justification for how you came up with the transport classification on the safety data sheet. So what we generally do for our clients is we have a checklist where we go through all of that criteria for all 9 hazard classes, and then we can justify it based on, if this product isn't toxic and their LD50s, is this an LC50s or that? And so we take it through more of a step-by-step. That's kind of what they're looking for. Or if you have test data, so if you've sent your product out for testing, just get a flammable, like a flashpoint maybe you have a flashpoint test that you did, the flashpoint, and then your product is flammable. That would be the justification to say why it is going to meet that specific criteria. All right, next question we have regarding the proof of classification. Do you have accesses to resources for testing purposes in Canada for class 4, 5.1, and 8? If you can send me, if you can email me, I would be happy to provide you with, we have some companies that we can refer you to that can do some testing and so on for your product to get the guidance done. All right, have significant changes to the IMDG, the next amendment, which is the 4326, been released? Not that I am aware of. So generally we see that a little bit further into the summer. And so as long as you are subscribed to our newsletter, we will certainly, the minute we get it, we will have a blog posted, and it'll be published relatively soon. So we'll be able to know exactly what those changes are that'll be posted there. All right, the next question is, with the ICAO addendum, is this more just for passenger and crew? Yes, really, it is for passenger and crew. So it's not necessarily for shippers, because if you're shipping power banks, they are likely going to you're going to have to ship them in, proper UN packaging and marks and labels and that type of thing. So this is more from bringing them on your person, having it in your backpack, and then, they don't want them basically to be used on board aircraft and so on because of the incidents. There was an incident where somebody's power bank in the overhead bin caught fire. There was a couple incidents right in a row that happened, and that's kind of what prompted this situation. Lithium batteries on airplanes that people bring on, it can be a very scary situation because there's not a lot of time to get that fire put out. All right, another question here we have, do you know UN 3551 and 3552 sodium ion batteries will be included in Section 2 of the Transport Canada through the National Harmonization Amendment? It is one that I would suspect would be included in the amendment, but I can ask Transport Canada. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend that conference with the Transport Canada representative, but I will send an email to see if I can get 100% clarification if that is going in there, will be in there, or if that'll be in the next one that comes down. So if you, again, would like to email me, let me know. Give me your email address. I will get you an answer officially. All right, last question. So when OSHA and WMIS going to be aligned? Is Canada going to adopt the corrosive to respiratory attack like OSHA? So the OSHA and WMIS are mostly aligned now. What happens though is each country never wants to diminish what safety they had in place previously. So we're always still going to have some minor changes, but in this last round of changes that they did, so we just finished WMIS's transition period, is what I was trying to find. And we're in that middle of that delayed enforcement period because Health Canada is giving OSHA a chance to get their situation in place with that. So the corrosive to the respiratory tract, as far as I understand, is still not an official classification in either regulation. It is a would be a health hazard not otherwise specified, or there's a physical hazard, or no, health hazard not otherwise classified, and hazard not otherwise classified. A little bit of difference there between US and Canada. And generally when I do safety data sheets, if it is corrosive to the respiratory tract, I will include it there specifically. All right, that is everybody. I got 1 minute to spare, so I think thank you very, very much for your time today. Please, again, send me any questions, comments. There will be a survey going out tomorrow, so you can put any information that you'd like me to share next time in there. And until then, have a wonderful summer. And I will see everybody. I should have a summer screen. There we go. Have a wonderful summer, and I will see everybody the first week in September. All right. Bye, everybody.